So today it's my very great pleasure to have a lovely conversation with a very old friend who is a wonderful artist.
Old being the operative word, okay, yeah.
Well, they're similarly old.
Yeah, old on the inside, gorgeous and young on the outside.
You were young and gorgeous once. So this is the great and wonderful Mr. Alexander Millar. So welcome.
Hi, okay, good to see you again.
It's good to see you. So we've been shooting the breeze, so to speak, these kind of conversations for, oh my goodness, 20 years, I guess, or thereabouts.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's always been an absolute pleasure and delight because we just kind of find interesting things to talk about, don't we? We always have.
Yeah. I fondly remember coming to the art cafe probably every day, throwing my woes at your feet, trying to get some advice on life and the universe and everything at the time. It was good fun, great fun.
Good fun days.
Good coffee as well. It's great coffee.
Great coffee, great wine, great British design.
Absolutely.
What's been happening for you since those heady days of rising to great stardom as an international artist?
What's been happening? There's been so much happened when I think about it. I was tied to in a contract with a big art publisher, which it was like a double-edged sword. It had good points and bad points. The good point was that you had lots of regular sales and a steady income stream. The bad point was that you were on a treadmill and you were just having to churn out paintings, and it was just non-stop. And when you start off, you'll accept any contract. When you're an artist just starting out, you'll accept anything just to get going. And that's not the best thing, because once you're trapped in that contract and things kind of take off, you're set at your little piece of the pie. And when you become really popular, you expect the piece of the pie to get bigger. And the men in the suits, no, they're businessmen. They're not artists, they're businessmen. So they keep your piece of the pie quite small and they take the profits, So I couldn't wait to get out of that contract, and eventually did. It took me 10 years. And ever since then, I've been self-publishing, self-promoting. You need the right people around you when you go on your own. And I found that in a guy that used to work with Washington Green, used to work with Castle, and he left them as well. And we says, well, why don't we? I need somebody to take care of all the business side, because it's all right left hemisphere in your head, I'm all unicorns and rainbows. I think that's right hemisphere. He's all left hemisphere. He was all business, pi r squared. I call it all pi r squared. So he's all pi r squared, and he takes care of that for us. So from there, we managed to launch our first Alexander Millar Fine Art Gallery in Glasgow, in Princess Square, and it's been great. And then we got an opportunity to do a show at New York and for the New York Fire Department Museum, which led to renting a place in Soho in New York. And the guy that owned that, he just fell in love with the stuff that we're doing. And he said, your work would sell really well up Midtown. He says, I've got a space up Midtown, just near the Flatiron Building. And when we went to see it, well, we said, where is it, first of all? And he says, oh, it's in Fifth Avenue. And I thought, hang on, I've gone from being a window cleaner to being an art, and then owning a Fifth Avenue New York art gallery. And that's what we did. We had it for about a year, and it was great fun. And then we've got the chance of opening one in Newcastle as well. So it's been quite a whirlwind in the past past 20 years, but the past 4 or 5 years has been quite a whirlwind. And that's what life should be. Life should be like full of adventure, and it's like a journey, as it should be lots of ups and downs and bends and turns, but there should always be places where wee laybys where you can come in and stop and just admire where you are in life. You always look out for the laybys.
Always look out for the laybys. What a great piece of advice for the world. So there's a huge amount in there about creativity and resilience and going with the flow and so on. I hope that we can return to that in a moment in conversation. conversation. But there's a couple of things I'm interested in just kind of sharing with the people who may be listening or watching this. Just to be clear for anybody who doesn't know Alexander Millar, which I find very hard to believe, but if they don't know his work, when I first met you, my goodness, you mentioned being a window cleaner. You were still doing a bit of window cleaning. I think you maybe
I always laugh because when it was raining, I was painting, and when it was nice and clear, I was clearing windows. But you get like in life, you a lot of people, they come up to that cliff edge where there's an opportunity, but it's a scary opportunity. You know, it's like you can't see the bottom. You just see a dark hole, and a lot of people don't jump. You know, when I was going through my dark night of the soul, I was kind of pushed because your unconscious pushed me over that edge. It was the scariest thing in the world to do, but it was the most beneficial, most exciting thing that I've ever done. And I would encourage anybody that if and when you come up to that cliff edge, to just bite the bullet and jump and see where life takes you. I've found that the more you surrender yourself to life and stop kicking and pushing and shoving and forcing, once you surrender yourself to life, life kind of carries you. And it's almost like a gentle breeze. It's almost like it's like it floats you along life, and it'll take you where you're meant to be. Because so often we think we should be here when really we should be over here, and we spend all our time and energy pushing ourselves to get to there, and then we eventually find out that that's where we should have been in the first place, over there. But once you surrender yourself to it, life will take you to that destination where you're meant to be. If you're listening and if you're feeling, because you're talking about the sort of flow, really, aren't you? That flow state that we often talk about. Yeah. There's something in there that maybe you are aware of, or maybe it's just my perception, but I remember in those early days of, you called the dark night of the soul, you know, when you were ready to take that big jump and go for it. You didn't just jump into a dark hole and just trust, because I remember you had, whether you were conscious of it or not, you had a vision of your future. You had a vision of yourself as a highly successful artist and of global recognition. And I remember you talking about, you know, visualizing yourself or believing that you could go to America, for example, and there was something else guiding you there, whether you call that inner wisdom, or whether, it doesn't really matter where it comes from, but you weren't just jumping blindly. You had a bit of a vision about what the future might be like. Is that how it was for you? Until you understand how the unconscious, how the mind and how life works, you only have desire and wants and needs, but it's that desire that we call it. But I would encourage people to understand life a bit more, because when you go to school, you get taught the pi r squared. You get taught how to, you know, add and read and write and all that kind of. But I said this to my daughter the other day, because she's homeschooling her kids, you know, and I says, stop homeschooling them, the 6 and 4. I says, let them play. Forget about school, because you'll only take less than 10% what you learned at school into modern adult life. And it's when you get into adulthood, you have to understand life's secrets. And really, you have to understand those secrets, because there are secrets in life. There are secrets that nobody wants you to know. And the school, the education system don't teach you these things, and I wish they would. I wish they'd have a curriculum or something in their schooling where it's like life lessons. So I had the desire to be a world famous artist. I hadn't a clue how it was going to happen. But as we know, if you visualize things, if you have a vision board, or if you keep imagining things, thoughts become things. They do. Nobody teaches you that, though, and nobody teaches you how to do it. So when I was in that dark night of the soul, I had that desire to be that artist and making a living at art. And I kept that at the forefront of my imagination. Probably could have got there quicker if I had done the lessons, put into practice what I know now. But I think you have to visualize, you have to keep that at the forefront, and that makes that jumping off the cliff a little easier. Even though you can't see what's at the bottom of that, knowing there is a safety net, it's that knowledge that if I do visualize, if I do imagine it's already happened, it will happen. It will happen, but you have to go up to the cliff and actually jump in. You have to force yourself over the cliff and jump. I've got a little theory, you know, like I knew a lot of people that were on antidepressants and pills because they were suffering depression, and I had depression as well, a form of depression. And the pills, they'll help you to a point, and your unconscious will push you up to the cliff edge, and you think, oh my God, no, that's a scary place to be. So you'll start going to the doctor and you're popping the pills, and your mind will come back from the cliff, and then you ease off the pills, and then your unconscious goes, right, okay, now push you again, you come back up there, and it's a vicious cycle. They seem to go up to the cliff edge, take the pills, come back, and then this, and for years and years people get into that cycle, and they're holding their life up. That's their life now. They're in this tread wheel, you know. Really, as I say, going back to how I felt, it was more beneficial for me, and it was more advantageous, even though it's a scary thing to do, is actually to come up to the cliff edge and jump off and see where life takes you. And it's always, there was a video of Will Smith, and he's a great one for the visualization and this type of thing. And his first skydive. He talked about his first skydive, and he said it was like coming up to the cliff edge. It was like standing at the doorway of the plane ready to jump, and his heart was pounding and pounding. And yet when he jumped, when he got to the bottom, he wanted to do it again. It was like, oh my goodness, that was the most exciting, invigorating and thrilling thing to do. But you have to give yourself that. You have to give yourself that little bit of faith and confidence that life will support you, that there is a way. There is a way for people to get, if it's out of a situation or a destination, life will always find a way for you, whether it's through your own unconscious movements, or whether it's life itself, I don't know, but there are those little steps to take that will help you to get where you need to be and want to be.
For any NLPers, anybody involved in the NLP world will recognise that what you're talking about is, you know, the clarity of a well-formed outcome. And so you take yourself forward in life as if it has happened or is happening, you know, with that full sensory experience. And I think a lot of people talk about that as manifestation, and of course it is. You're creating the future you are the architect designer of your own life, but perhaps at the time you weren't so clear about it, but actually on reflection I hear it's like, oh yeah, that is how it is. Also, just on the subject of NLP, for any NLPers watching, you were the person who got me to do my first NLP practitioner, because I remember having a chat with you and you were going, oh, I've been doing this cool thing that's called NLP. And I'm like, you said, do you know about it? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do, because I'm an avid reader and have always been interested in, you know, psychologies and behaviors and so on and so forth. And, you know, background in education. It was like, yeah, of course I have, because I'd read about it, but that's not quite the same. And it was thanks to you that actually I embarked on my journey to discover how my mind works, and then have gone on to have a good solid career in helping other people to help themselves. So
I mean, that's great. It's a great journey for yourself as well to be on. The thing that helped me when I used to come and visit you was being able to talk to you. And I'll say that to anybody, that if they're, whatever situation and problems or whatever they face in life, if you've got a listening ear, and somebody that will guide you in the right way. That's more important than anything. My God, I remember I've been told as well that I would say the same thing over again, and it's this repetition. It's almost like I was wanting reassurance for the journey that I was embarking on. You know, anybody in any problems like, they really need to talk. Talking's so important, and you'll know when it's the right advice because you feel it.
Yeah.
Rather than hear it. You might not understand it, but if you feel it in your stomach, you'll feel that, oh, that's right. That's where it makes sense. If you feel that gut feeling, if it makes sense there, go with it. It might not make sense up here, but you once these two things combine,
That's where you pass
that's
through.
that's where it is. That's, you feel it in your stomach. It's odd. It's weird.
Really interesting. Something that I have written about in my book, it is one of the essential core needs of a human being is to have somebody who can listen unconditionally. And it's not necessarily about giving advice, it's about just being present with somebody, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that in your life is very important. I volunteer as a Samaritan, and that's largely what we do. We are just present with that person completely and utterly, and we're just listening. And it serves a very important function somewhere in the alignment of conscious and unconscious.